Welcome to this video. In this video, what we're going to be doing is actually taking a look at our AI knowledge base, which we've completed in previous steps of this video series, and using that to generate real lead AI metrics on all of your leads. So what this will do is it will provide sales feedback to your sales agents. It will provide a metric and description on client suitability for your service offering. And it will also do things like measure the sales health score. Now, this is a really basic implementation, but it has a lot of monetary value. If you're selling a high ticket product for anything that's over 4 figures really, and your sales agents get 10 to 20% better at selling, then you can already see what that leads to in terms of monetary benefits year on year from your team. And that's just assuming you have one sales agent. If you have multiple, they get 30% better. We're talking about possibly 6 figures of benefit from a service like this. So what I'm going to do is take you through and show you exactly how we create this on the back end and in N8N so that you can build this into your own system. We're going to use AI to track real metrics on our leads. So things like sales health, client suitability, and client rating, we're going to implement right now live on this system. So let's just jump straight into it. So you can see on the board here, we've got the description. If the clients in the lead stage is not in those, let's use that to update the sales health, client suitability, and client rating. Now, the workflow that we're using to attach meetings, communications, and messages to a client looks like this. We've talked about those in previous videos. So if you haven't yet set up a system where all of your communications with your client are being added to a database and uploaded to an AI knowledge base, check out the starter videos in this series to get that set up before you jump into this. All right, so if you've been watching this so far, you'll realize that we have 3 separate data types. We've got meeting, which looks like this. We've got messages, which looks like this, so storing a client, and then we've got emails, which basically stores to, from, subject, body, etc. Now, what we have is we have a workflow. We have database triggers on each of these 3 data types. So whenever a new email or meeting or message is added to the database, or it's adjusted or changed, we trigger this again and it triggers a workflow. So currently what it does is it updates the client sentiment field, which we talked about in the previous video. The next thing we want to do is we want to schedule something to update the lead if the client is currently in the lead stage. Now, we'll probably do that in the update client AI fields, because we're going to call it a client AI field. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come across to our leads data type, and we're going to add 3 new fields. Let's add the feedback field. Now we have 2 options here. We could add a feedback field to a meeting, or we could add a feedback field to a lead. We're going to start with a lead because ideally in some businesses, you'll probably have a sales agent doing the meetings with leads. Then you'll have a project manager doing the meetings once that is actually converted into a project. So there'll be 2 different approaches that you'll use. The sales approach is probably going to be different to the project management approach. In this use case, we're going to start with a lead. So we're going to have a feedback field. And what else did we describe? So we had feedback field, sales health. Now that'll probably be a number, and client suitability, let's say that's a number as well out of 10. So I'm going to come down to sales health and make a number field there. And client suitability is also going to be a number field. So we've now created our 3 database fields. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a workflow. So we've passed the client and we've passed the date. And what we want to do is currently we're creating the client sentiment log. But the next thing we probably want to do is check whether or not the client is actively a lead that is in the stage. So if we look at our lead stages, if it's in new, qualifying, or quoting, we would then want to attach or update these fields. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trigger a custom event, and I'm going to create a new custom event. I'm just going to copy this one and paste it. I'm going to call this custom event update lead AI fields. And what it's going to do is it's going to take a lead as an input. Cool. So we've created that. Now I'm going to trigger that custom event only if do a search for the lead. The client equals the current client. the stage. Now we actually have stage indexes. So if I come down to what our stages look like, we've got new, qualifying. I'm assuming new is 1, qualifying is 2, and quoting is 3. So we're going to say in here, if lead stage is less than equal to 3, oh, sorry, lead stages get an option. Filter. Order, so. Yeah. Cool. And then we also just want to make sure it's not archived. All right. Now we should only ever have one lead for each client. So we're going to send that. So what we've done here is we've set up a condition where we've searched for leads, and if any leads are attached to the client and they're currently in the new qualifying or quoting stages, then we want to update them, and we want to update the 3 AI fields when a new communication is added. So a new email, a new meeting, or a new message. Now we're actually going to use the same inputs or very similar inputs. We don't need the date, but we're just going to change the prompt. So I'm going to say these following communications have been made with a potential client up until this current date. This client is a prospect. Cool. Now we also need to change our API requests, which means we need to make a new init workflow that's going to return these fields. So what I'm going to do, I think you can actually build it in the exact same. Yeah, so we could build it right here in the meeting transcribed, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete it from here. I'm going to exit here. I'm going to come to our client sentiment webhook, and I'm actually going to change this to client AI fields. Now we're going to use, so I'm going to call this one, this will be client fields. Then I'm actually going to create a new webhook, and I'm going to make this one the lead fields. So it's this one here. And I'm going to go lead fields. Cool. Now we need the test URL. So we're going to come and create a request. And I basically duplicate this call.
So get for that. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's fine out there.
We're going to change that, and we're going to update the webhook test URL, and let's pass a value through and just test that this works. So I'm going to listen for a test event, and I'm going to reinitialize this request. Sorry, that's a get request. We want to post for test event. Cool. We got a 200, which means that went through, and we can see it's come through here. So we have the request working. Now we need to set up an AI agent. So we'll set that up here. We'll give it a chat model. So you can set it up with whatever chat model you want. We've just been using GPT-4o mini at this stage. Doesn't need a memory because it's just running one time. But what we will do is we will give it access to our AI knowledge base or our vector database.
Okay, so
Connect it up. We'll use our one.
So, okay.
Cool. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to copy the namespace. Oh, the namespace is not actually in here. Now you don't need to worry about the namespace. We have our namespace, just different namespaces for different companies.
So the same period.
What is your disaster? For your uses, the same fully circuit therapy. Hold on, just a at the same time. I guess this is like.
Now what we're going to do is we want to send all of the communications that have currently or happened with, so we're going to change this to query lead AI fields, and we're going to use, let me just copy what was in here. So we're going to copy the arbitrary text, go forward, delete all of that, and put our arbitrary text in there.
It's
Now we're just migrating the expressions over to work with the lead. Cool. And now we have all of that information being populated. We need to come back to the AI agent. Now it's going to work from a definition, and we need to craft a prompt. So what I'm going to do is just come to ChatGPT and go, can you build me a prompt that takes all communication inputs between us and agency?
but what if I try?
Sales health and client suitability. Now this is just a start. We could always improve this later down the line with specific knowledge documents on how sales processes should operate, what key metrics of client suitability look like, what key metrics of a healthy sales call look like. We're just going to do this for the initial MVP, but you could broaden this out into multiple sales agents that are really specific on each segment. We're going to keep it simple just for the first version of this. Then we might make a second video later on actually splitting this into 3 separate agents and getting real specific on sales agent feedback, client health, client suitability, etc. Cool. Now we're just getting an example output so that we can come to the AI agent and we can check this box, which is require specific output format. We want the output format in a fixed JSON structure so that we can easily map it to the database fields. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get structured output parser, which is a JSON format. You'll see what happens is we should be able to get an example output in JSON format here. Okay. Awesome. I'm going to copy that across into here. And what I'll do now is change the webhook so that it responds when the last node finishes. So once this AI agent has done its thing, and let's test this out now. So if I click test, I come back to our API request and I reinitialize the call. You can actually see it running live. Cool. It has an output. And if we come back here, we've got sales health score 7, client suitability score 8. Awesome. Now, I don't even know what input I provided here. This was a test meeting that I actually had with myself. So there's probably not too much useful information in that. But what we've done is we now have the database fields. So we've created those fields. Now, if we come back here and we make the change to lead, I'm going to add sales health description and client suitability description. And we're going to map those to result to step 1. So we got client suitability score, sales health score, this is feedback, sales health description, client suitability score. I'm going to assume that was description. Cool. And we've made the changes to leads, and that's how that works. Now all we have to do is actually just map that onto our leads on the front end. So we've got the view lead here. We've got client sentiment. I'm going to create a separate one called lead AI metrics, let's say, for example. Now I'm going to delete that and I'm just going to copy something that looks like this. Going to come back here. Now you should label things better than I do, but we're going to go GP.
Great and agreements will spend all their
Cool. So let's say, for example, let's call this one a feedback metric for now. We'll remove that and we'll create okay, so this is going to be sales feedback. Now, underneath that, we're going to have, we want this to be a separate row. So you should want it to go there. Now, this one's going to be, I'm going to call this the
hot one so so yeah, easy. But so yeah, supposed to check measuring it as
GP sales feedback. Now this is going to be GP sales feedback container. From here, we're going to make a new container. And this one's going to be called GP client health. Now this one is sorry, this is sales health score. I'm going to call this one. Cool. And then we're going to copy that and we're going to make another one. Sales feedback description, sales help description. Cool. So that's our first metric. Now we want to basically copy this to get our suitability section. So we're going to copy this again. GP client suitability.
GP client suitability score.
I'm like to say that trace, that person, they're good. That guy's,
Cool. And now we have that mapped onto our front end. Now, the next thing to do is to test it. You can see here, I have 1 million test leads in my account. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to leads and I'm actually just going to delete all of them. Oh, we've got a lot. You'll see these all disappear, gone. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a test lead. So let's go to John Doe, which is who we were testing with. I'm going to put them in the new stage. Let's go SaaS app, budget 30K. This is a test lead sentiment lead. Save that lead. And we have a lead in the new section. Now, what we want to do is we want to update a meeting to basically use this field. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the client quickly and then I'm going to change it back. And what that's doing is it's updating the record. So then what should happen is if we come in here, we can see the client metric has run again. The leads are, so what we need to do, what we forgot to do is change this back over to the webhook. So we need to remove webhook test off of that. Now that should work. We need to publish this as live. So we're going to save it. And let's run that same test again. So if I come back to meetings, I scroll down. And I come back to the lead and look at the details. Let's see if it executed. It's running right now. Now it's worked, but it's triggered. So as you can see, we've got it. We've got blah, blah, blah. Cool. So that's really cool. Now what we need to do is there's some reason it looks like it's triggered 1, 2, 3, 4 times. 4 times. So we will need to investigate why that is happening. But outside of that, as you can see, what we just did was set up a really basic, I guess, feedback system for our leads. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use this in our live system for a couple of days, test it, test how it performs on some meetings, and then we can revise it and update it with documents and make it better and better. But rather than doing that straight off the bat, the typical way we approach these things is build something really basic at the start, actually use it in a real test environment. So we'll push this to live and use it in our CRM software, and then circle back in a couple of days and see how it performed. Was it kind of crappy? Did it actually solve some problems? And how can we improve it? So I'll keep you guys posted, but that is essentially what this step 3 aims to do, is to use our knowledge base, our communications and AI to start to give real feedback on our leads.